Previously on The Rock Critic.
This week, Mama Frankie, just gonna give you a list of people that should be dead. If AIDS and autism and cancer get together and had a big old fuck baby, that fuck baby wouldn't be as stupid as these people. Oh my god, Pink Girl, what are you doing here? I thought you were in Young Long or some stupid shit like that. Hey, Mouse. Hey, Mouse. 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 Can I have a Brucey Mouse? You shut that stupid whore mouth, Pink Girl. Why don't you just go away and do some mean shit? Can you please leave? Everyone! Fake-ass pink girls. You know the type. They dye their hair in stupid colors like pink and purplies, and get shaved into a stupid mohawk or a side mullet, and they talk with a weird British accent, or oh, cheers, Rev, or who wants to head to the pub, or D.Va stop hopping, walk a bloody rabbit, and cover the bleeding point. Hey, people, newsflash, she's fake! Fake, 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 fake-ass punky girl. She's a little fake-ass poser punk bitch. And nobody wants a fake-ass poser punk bitch.
What are you doing with my camera?
Number 2. Edgewords. Jesus Christ, these assholes. The dressing all black and the listen to that stupid death metal. They were saying stuff like, and I'm a total psychopath, and I'm gonna smear this little gremlin's face across the concrete. I went to see a try stupid. To people like that, they act all tough and mean and stupid, but on the inside, they're just right. They're cancer. They look like cancer, they talk like cancer. Mostly wish I could drown myself in a bathtub. Full of cancer. Cancer bath!
Why would you want me to do this?
Beep, beep, beep. And worst of all, forgive a little D.Va here, because we might be getting a little salty, little racy here. But the people who really suck the most? Science. Science are just stupid. The big, stupid animal hair. They're being real stupid and dumb and just being bad parents. Coffee can kill them, no matter how hard you try. It's stupid. It's like they're playing with the cheat codes on. Rashid! Rashid! Can I have a Brucey Mouse? I'm gonna be severed. These people are just stupid and dumb and they're stupid Jesus, what do I say? Cancer! AIDS! Cancer! Cancer! Listen,
D.Va, for fuck's sake, tell me we got the shot, because I am not doing that again.
Can hear the pussy mouse.
Leave!
Where the hell was I? Oh, yeah, Green Day. Well, after Warning, the band kept on touring and kept on keeping on like they do, and in 2001 they eventually released International Super Hits, a best-of collection featuring pretty much all of their singles, along with a DVD with all of their music videos up to that point.
Oh man, now that's something I kind of miss, you know? Like, there was this really brief period back in the day when DVDs first kind of started to become a thing, when bands would not only release their best of albums or whatever, but they would also include a DVD collection with those albums that had all their previous music videos up to that point. It was really, really cool back in the day. There were a few bands that really took advantage of this, Green Day being one of them.
After that dropped, a year later, we got Shenanigans, a collection of B-sides, rarities, covers, and an unreleased track or two. It's okay. What? What am I supposed to say about it? It's a B-sides album. I kinda have a soft spot for You Lied. Their cover of Outsider is okay. Tired of Waiting for You just sounds too similar to the original Kink song for me to care. Guys, I tend not to cover stuff like B-sides, rarities, live albums, you know, that kind of side stuff. I mean, they're just B-sides.
And guys, in like 90% of the cases I've ever seen, yeah, usually there's a reason these songs end up on B-sides compilations. They're not great, or they don't fit into the overall scheme of the album they were making at the time. It feels weird and disjointed, and it doesn't belong. As a result, that's a reason why so many B-sides collections, well, for me at least, they just don't seem to hit a mark, really. Like, I can only think of a handful of B-side compilations that really, really got to me. Nirvana's Incesticide being one, for sure. Pisces Iscariot, most definitely. Prince always had excellent B-sides. Those are always worth checking out. Does Give Me Convenience or Give Me Death count as a B-sides collection? I don't know if that counts, for sure. And, oh my god, The Master Plan. Holy shit, like, The Master Plan? No shit. Like, it's all B-sides, but I swear to god, it's the best Oasis album that Oasis never technically made. Seriously, pick that one up. But guys, I mean, apart from those few examples, maybe a few more I can't think of off the top of my head, I just don't think B-sides are really worth discussing that much. Not really. They're not that good. You know what? Go ahead. I don't even care. Like, guys, I've been at this for 5 years now. I am numb to this shit. I just don't even feel it. My leg is falling asleep just reading this.
But by this time it was 2002, and here's where we start to get to the really interesting shit. Now, I left you guys off on a big question at the end of the previous episode. When we last left off, their previous album, Warning,
while totally being an awesome and underappreciated masterpiece,
was kinda poorly received by both critics and even the fan base at the time, and at that moment the band kinda had to deal with a big question.
Do we continue to be bold and take risks and grow and develop and be the band that we want to be? Or do we want to play it safe and scale things back and do something that's just more radio friendly, or more just, you know, more just what the crowd wants to hear from us? So, what did the band end up doing? Well, I think most of you already know the answer to that. But in their hour of need, when times seemed darkest, the band summoned up their courage, stepped forward with everything they had, and wrote an album that was just the same old shtick they'd always been doing.
What? It's true! Why are you looking at me with murder in your eyes? Oh, you think I'm talking about this? No, honey. No, we're not even close to that yet. American Idiot, contrary to what many might think, is not the official follow-up to Warning. At least it wasn't intended to be. Nah, after the band saw how Warning floundered, they decided to head back to their roots in a big way on the album they were crafting, Cigarettes and Valentines. Now, this album is really hard to talk about because it was never released, but according to interviews with the band, this album was intended to be a hard, quick-tempoed collection of punk songs, more in the vein of Kerplunk or Insomniac. Mike Dirnt even described the process of making the album as, "We've had a nice break from making hard and fast music, and it made us want to do it again."
So they decided to chill the fuck out and kind of ease up off the experimentation and just, decide to rock the fuck out again. Which, given Warning's overall general reception, I'll bet a lot of fans were really glad to hear that back in the day. So yeah, they decided to go back to their roots. But the thing is, okay, if that was the album they made, then why haven't we heard it? Simple. Some shitty motherfucker just straight up stole the damn thing. I'm not even kidding. Like, some asshole had the gall to just straight up Ocean's 11 this thing out of existence. Give us back our album, you handsome fuck!
Yep, people, it's really that simple. The band had the album pretty damn close to finished. They had 20 master tracks ready to go for a final mix. And then one random-ass day, some shady motherfucker just walked out of the studio with the tapes. No shit. To this day, we still don't know exactly what happened to them, at least during the period when they were missing. They never showed up as a bootleg, they never made rounds on the underground. It all just, poof, disappeared. As far as we know, Cigarettes and Valentines, at least to the public, is lost to history. The band have gone on to play some of the songs from this Vaporware album live. That cannot be the correct term for music, can it? Vaporware? No. Vaporwave? No, that's definitely not it. Simpsons Wave? And some songs have seen an eventual release. Too Much Too Soon, in fact, was released as a B-side on the American Idiot single, and the title track would see an eventual release of sorts on one of their eventual live albums. Something they released right before the dark times.
Now, there's a ton of speculation as to what songs may or may not either be taken from Cigarettes and Valentines and reworked, or just strongly influenced or reworked in some way. I don't know. I mean, stuff like Governator, Dropouts, songs like those, usually a lot of their B-sides, people seem to theorize that, oh, this was originally from Cigarettes and Valentines, or oh, they took this from Cigarettes and Valentines and made it into this, which, oh, guys, it's all speculation. At least I could find no really hard data on anything in particular. Like, I don't know, we don't even have so much as a track listing for the original Cigarettes and Valentines, so, I don't know, it's hard to really nail down anything, but I will say this much. From the 2 definitive songs we have that we know for certain are from the original Cigarettes and Valentines, it is such a tragedy that this thing got stolen, because holy shit, it sounds like it would have been great!
And that's the thing, Cigarettes and Valentines is kind of a rare case amongst lost albums. I mean, these songs aren't like studio rehearsals or first take demos or live bootlegs or anything like that. These songs were pretty much done and recorded. From what I understand, they hadn't had final mixing done, but I mean, that was it apart from the shrink wrap. These songs were basically finished. This is one of the rare cases of a lost album that also isn't an unfinished album. And you know what? The tracks we have heard from it definitely show that. They're loud, punchy, aggro, and wild, but they also maintain that small bit of musical maturity the band had accrued over the years.
But, que sera, I guess. We'll probably just never get to hear this thing. The band actually did eventually recover their original tapes. They did that somewhat recently here, so that's super cool. But the band has also gone on to say that they have no intentions of ever releasing those tapes, at least in any public fashion, and the band has said that they've already taken some of the material from those old tapes and used them in other songs, so chances are just really not good that we'll ever hear, at least in any real capacity, what Cigarettes and Valentines was supposed to be. It's a shame, too. I would love for Billy Joe to get a wild hair up his ass and just throw those tapes out there. Someone help me get that wild hair up there. God damn it, I really want to hear those tapes!
But not too long after all this was going on, another thing was happening in the meantime? Oh, this is a strange chapter. A weird new band that was supposedly brought up to prominence because of Billy Joe's involvement suddenly made themselves known, calling themselves The Network. They went under goofy aliases like Z, Captain Underpants, and The Snoo, and hid their identities behind strange masks. They played this weird brand of new wave synth pop and loved stirring shit with the band that supposedly helped them make a name for themselves. Apparently they pushed Billy Joe's buttons so hard, Billy himself directly called them out in several interviews and gave a straight up fuck you to their faces. But who were these strange, elusive characters? Where did they come from? Were they even human? Who on earth could be—
It was just Green Day and masks. Like, it's not even subtle. Look at this. That's Billy, that's Trey. The one in paper mache, maybe Mike, I don't know, but guys, it's like not even subtle. That's totally Green Day. I'm not even sure why they played up the whole, oh, we're totally two bands and we're totally feuding gimmick so much. It was a paper-thin veneer, like, but points to the guys for sticking to their story, I guess. To this day, no one has ever come forward and said, oh yeah, we were The Network, it was totally us. We just got super high one summer and decided we wanted to make synthwave.
Yeah, this was a weird little aside for the band. I guess that's one way to get a side project going. Just do it and swear to God, knock on wood, triple-double backsies that you're not doing it. And make no mistake, The Network is totally a Green Day side project. In fact, a better name for this group would have been Are We Not Men? We Are Green Day. This album is very 80s synth rock and very, very, very Devo. If Mark Mothersbaugh didn't have some hand in its creation, he at least deserves an indirect writing credit. It's not all what you'd expect from a project featuring all three, I guess four if you want to get technical, members of Green Day to sound like, but it still does have those little traces of them. The bratty as hell lyrics, songs about jerking off to porn, trying to score drugs, and X-ray hamburgers. No, really. I mean, all those motifs fit into the typical Green Day MO pretty well. At least, you know, from a certain era. But it's bleepy bloopy. Casio is all fuck synths and all these electronic program drums. It almost sounds like something the Brothers Chaps would crank out if they, you know, had a budget.
She partied without dancing, she partied with my heart.
If you always wondered what Green Day would sound like if they were a new wave synth band instead of a punk rock group, wow, do you have weirdly specific tastes, but it's out there. And it's worth digging up. You know, it's fairly interesting if you're into that kind of thing. You know, the synthwave melodies are very well constructed. The songs are pretty catchy, and they have a pretty decent cover of the Misfits' Teenagers from Mars that I actually really enjoy. You know, this is something worth digging up if it seems like something that piques your curiosity. I'd give it a recommendation, sure. Why do I even mention it? Well, because while Cigarettes and Valentines was going down, there was a very popular rumor that The Network, or at least their album Money Money 2020, actually was Cigarettes and Valentines just reworked under a different band name and a different format. And no, God. Oh God, if you've heard anything from this album, you know, no. Oh my God, if people were angry about Nimrod and Warning, holy fuck, this would have got them crucified.
So, in around 2003, frustrated as all hell from the constant touring, the lackluster reception of their previous effort, and the press's ever-increasing writing them off as passé, the band got together in LA and Hollywood and began working on a replacement album, favoring that to actually going through the hull of recreating all the stuff they'd previously worked on. And here was where the band finally cracked down and decided to just go all out and try something new, something out there. You know, thinking farther outside the box than they ever had before.
Hey, what the hell do they have to lose at this point, right?
And from all accounts I've read, the process of creating this album was grueling. It took 10 months to make at a cost of nearly $650,000. Holy shit, dude, that costs more than a lot of full-blown feature films, dude. Kevin Smith could have made like a dozen Clerks with that money. Not that you'd want him to. Not to mention the band were,
Oh dear, how do I put this delicately? Doing what rock stars generally do. Oh, come on! That thing was bolted to the dresser. Are you serious? Like, will you guys at least clean those mirrors when you're done using them and put that mud shark in the bathtub or something? Come on, that's gross. Ay.
Yeah, there was plenty of partying going on. Not to a Motley Crue level or anything, but apparently the hotel the guys rented out would often get noise complaints from playing loud music, and supposedly their producer, Rob Cavallo, again, I told you to remember that name, had to schedule Billy's vocal sessions around his hangovers. It was nice of him to at least draw that kind of thing up.
I personally like to think of my own hangovers as more freeform. Like jazz.
But after 10 months, over $500,000, and hours upon hours of experimenting with weird new writing techniques, rehearsing, and recording methods, the band came out with their next big album. And oh boy, did this one have a lot riding on it. Like I mentioned, people were starting to write off Green Day around this time. Other acts like Blink-182, Sum 41, and New Found Glory were starting to emerge from out of their shadows, and they were beginning to lay claim to the pop-punk throne they'd once created.
Man, it feels really weird saying that in hindsight, but guys, believe me, this was actually a thing people were worried about.
This album could have been the one that finally broke the band apart. They were exhausted after creating this, and people were starting to lose interest in them. Maybe their time really had come. I mean, it happens to all bands eventually. Maybe these guys had just spent all their creative juices, you know? Maybe they'd said all they were capable of saying. Maybe it was finally time for these old dogs to slowly, gently fade away into the sunset, like so many other punk bands before them. Hey, they had a good run. It lasted a lot longer than many of the greatest bands out there, you know? Maybe this was finally it for them.
Like bloody fucking hell it was.
God damn! This album blew everyone away. No one was expecting this. It was something most people had never even heard before. A rock opera that was pure punk. A punk rock opera, if you will. I mean, this concept is nothing new nowadays, but back in the early 2000s, such a thing was almost totally unheard of. I actually remember people's initial reaction to hearing that this was going to be a full-blown opera. It was usually one of two things. A, wow, that's got to be the first time that's ever been done. And or B, wait, that can never work. Punk rock songs are supposed to be short.
And, well, they're not exactly wrong about that.
I mean, yeah, longer punk rock tracks do exist. The Wipers had Youth of America, Husker Du had All Work and No Play. You see how this band keeps coming up in this retrospective? Neither here nor there, but you should totally check them out. Just saying, you know. And of course, there was always Flipper.
I have gotten so much flack for my hatred of Flipper over the years. Don't worry, we'll go into more detail. Someday.
But how many of you knew about those songs before I mentioned them just now? Nope, be honest. Be honest, don't just try to look cool in front of your friends. Yeah, that's what I thought. Not that these songs are bad, mind. Well, Flipper's are. Flipper sucks! Fucking fight me, brah! But punk is a genre that is known and lauded for its brevity, its quickness, its speed, its intensity, its ability to get in, get out, and be done. I mean, punk started out as a rebellion against the bloated, monolithic, self-indulgent wanking of 70s Prague, and given its general ethos, the idea of an opera being made with punk music, it ain't exactly the two most compatible ideas in the world, you know? It's like making a sex toy out of chocolate. Two very good things that don't exactly go well together. Look, you do you, but all I'm saying is that's how infections get spread around.
But like a good pair of chocolate edible panties, yes, two things that seem like they would never go together totally can if you think of the right idea, and wish I had thought of a less disgusting analogy there.
Dude, really? That's gross.
I know. I'm not proud of myself.
You know what else is gross?
What?
Yes!
Is this about the chore list? D.Va, I've been vacuuming for 3 straight weeks. You can take it this week. It's non-negotiable at this point.
And holy God, does this album get things started right with the eponymous opening track. Seriously, this may very well be one of the best opening tracks for an album, period. It's up there with Let's Go Crazy, Smells Like Teen Spirit, Babbo, Riley, maybe even My Name is Jonas. I don't know, man. It's good. It's really, really good. This song makes you beg to hear more from the album.
I mean, the band really did a lot of hyping in the press about how the album was going to be operatic, and they made a big deal of the scale of the album, and it made people a little uneasy, you know? People weren't sure exactly what to think of this, but man, when they released this song as the first single, and especially when they made this the very first track you hear when playing the album, it serves as a wonderful reassurance that, oh, okay, just because we're stepping way outside of our comfort zone, you know, it doesn't mean these guys haven't forgotten how to rock the fuck out.
American Idiot is everything I love in a punk song. It's loud, it's fast, it's angry, it's volatile, it's controversial. It makes you want to slam that motherfucking pit with all you got, and it pisses off all the people that don't want you in that motherfucking pit. It's a clarion call for every new millennial punk and a blueprint for the direction punk would take for the years to come. And it does all of this in just under 3 minutes. Oh God, it's modern punk rock perfection.
And don't take it lightly when I say this thing was volatile. Holy shit, I can barely believe what they got away with on this track.
Seriously, not only is this song angry, but it's blunt. This song is a football to the groin, it's so blunt. Again, probably why I love it so much. I mean, holy shit, just listen to this.
Well, maybe I'm the faggot America. I'm not a part of a redneck agenda.
They actually went there. I mean, usually I have to censor that word on my show because the person who is using it,
I see you faggots living perfect lives. So who's the faggot now?
is a fucking moron, but Green Day is doing it right here. They're saying, you know what? Yeah, call me a faggot. I don't care, fuckface. I ain't no fucking redneck. Eat me, hillbilly. Fuck you. And yeah, it's really not meant as a mixed metaphor or anything like that. Billy Joe heard the Lynyrd Skynyrd song That's How I Like It on the radio, and
Can't tell you why, but I get up every morning, thank the man above.
Yeah, post-Ronnie Skinner tends to put me in a foul mood too.
this song is pretty much a fuck you to all those,
Gentlemen or women of the country music persuasion.
Sure, let's go with that. In Billy's own words, his reaction to hearing the Lynyrd Skynyrd abomination was It was like, I'm proud to be a redneck. And I was like, oh my god, why would you be proud of something like that? This is exactly what I'm against.
The whole song is basically one gigantic middle finger to that kind of right-winger, you know, the Sarah Palin set, the morons who kept putting George W. Bush into power, you know? It's a huge middle finger just right up the ass to those motherfuckers. But at the crazy right-wing college that I attended when this album dropped, where like that was 80% of the student population, I still heard that song played all the goddamn time. American Idiot was like the biggest album on campus the year it was released, so I don't know, man, fuck.
This song, along with a lot of the general themes explored on this album, came about due to Billy's response over the rise of George W. Bush to power and his
less than stellar
handling of the war in Iraq. This song in general lambasts the crazy media coverage at the time, the way news outlets would just hammer these stories into you over and over again, sensationalizing, aggrandizing, infusing hype and false hysteria. Hell, some of them would just straight up make shit up.
Not that that's relevant to today's world or anything. Guys, look, I fucking warned you in the last episode. There's no way we can talk about this album without getting into this shit, okay? Fucking strap in.
And the song feels caustic. It's meant to be caustic. This is how the media was making a lot of us feel back then. And fuck, even today, whether you supported the war in Iraq or not, it was tense back then. We were all on the edge of our fucking seats. It was rigid and pointed, and it made you angry, paranoid, and fearful. And the song effectively captures all of those feelings. The song basically sums up the socio-psychological mindset of the average American between September 11th, 2001 and 2008, roughly. Billy had expressed a very genuine concern for this kind of thing happening in Minority, remember that? And Billy Joe Armstrong, punk rock Nostradamus. We're all fucked. Shit.
But regardless of its pull no punches approach to what side it was on, guys, this album still struck a chord with many, many people. People loved this song. And you know, I get why. It's crazy, forceful, and aggressive, and powerful, and yet so wonderfully, blissfully constructed, and just so beautifully and simply maintained as a song that, man, even if you hate what they're saying, you cannot help but pay attention to it. It's a scream from the disenfranchised. It's the little guy standing up to the big dogs with middle fingers blazing in the air saying, "No, motherfucker, I am not gonna take your shit. Fuck you." And God, isn't that what punk rock is all about?
I said back in the last episode that Minority was one of my 2 favorite Green Day songs of all time. Well, this is the other one. Seriously, this is one of the best goddamn tracks they've ever written, if not debatably the best. I'm not the only one who thinks so either. It was nominated for 4 Grammys, and Rolling Stone named it the number 13 song of its decade and the 432nd greatest song of all time.
That's the only Green Day song to have made it onto that list, by the way. Nothing else from American Idiot, nothing else from any other Green Day album, just that one song. And even though I would have put it way higher and would have put way more Green Day songs on this list, I still kind of agree. I mean, if you're only going to put one Green Day song on this list, I'd be hard-pressed to find a much better one. Also, another fun little factoid, Rolling Stone would eventually go on to place this at number 22 of their 100 greatest albums of the decade and number 225 in their 500 greatest albums of all time. But do you know what Rolling Stone's original score for this album was when they initially reviewed it upon its release? 3 out of 5. I shit thee not, people. 3 out of 5. Well, hey, it may be literally one of the greatest albums ever made in the history of man, but please, 7 out of 10. I mean, let's be realistic here. It's almost like music critics just blow smoke out their ass and have no idea what they're generally talking about and shouldn't really be taken all that seriously.
And from there, we jump immediately from this track into the Jesus of Suburbia suite, a 9-minute long epic punk rock smorgasbord carved up into 5 parts. They don't waste any time jumping into the more operatic stuff on this album either. Thankfully though, the song works really, really well. Hell, they were even able to get away with releasing this as a single. Most radio outlets would play a trimmed down, like 6.5-minute cut of this. A cut that basically cuts out most of I Don't Care, which, that's like one of the best parts of the song, you dicks. But it was by no means uncommon to just hear your average radio station play the full-length song. At least it was in my neck of the woods.
A 9-minute punk rock opera song getting regular rotation on the radio in modern times, where radio was mostly about just cramming as many shitty ads between Daughtry cuts as humanly possible. Guys, it sounds impossible, but I promise you, it happened. I think I know why it happened too, and it's gonna be a really weird reason, but just follow me here. I think the reason this song got so much play and so much recognition is because of just how shifty it is. No, not in that way. Ew, no. No, guys, I think this song just stuck out so much because of the different movements it takes and the weird different places it goes. It's damn intriguing.
The song doesn't necessarily feel like one cohesive whole. It feels like there is the loosest of musical threads and themes holding it all together, but at the same time it feels more like a collection of several different parts of other songs brought together. It feels more like 5 extremely super tight, short and sweet songs under the same umbrella, as opposed to one monolithic, chubby lard-ass song that just doesn't know when to fucking quit. The movements are very strikingly different from each other. The very first one explodes from note 1, while City of the Damned gives us lots of jaunty piano shenanigans. I Don't Care is just pure anthemic bliss. Dearly Beloved slows things down and almost makes a ballad out of things. And Tales from Another Broken Home.
Tales from another broken.
This part is so good, it would be an album closer on any other album. But here, we are just getting started, motherfuckers.
It's not so much a song as it is a journey. It takes you on a ride, establishes a tone, a mood, a setting, a feeling. This song is basically the result of the band having several small ideas for songs, but not having the means to create full tracks out of them, so they figured, hey, let's just smush everything together and make it its own thing.
Guys, have you ever been like super behind on groceries or just really fucking poor and had to rummage through your kitchen on those really rough days and just scrape what little elements of food you had out of your cupboards and try to Frankenstein it into something that resembled lunch? Have you ever had to do that? Okay, now how many times has that ever produced something tasty?
Let's go see Mom.
See, that's why this song shouldn't work on paper, but I'll be goddamned if it doesn't. And it totally befuddles me because I've seen so many bands botch up this approach to songwriting. It was a bold move to do this, but credit where it's due, it worked. And it worked with a vengeance. Billy Joe said in writing this track he was attempting to write the Bohemian Rhapsody of the future, and yeah, man, he fucking nailed it. See, this is why I don't give Greatest Man Who Ever Lived any slack, because American Idiot got it right.
This is also the first moment where we meet our protagonist, Jesus of Suburbia. And this is the part where we start to divulge into the album's plot and story, and this is the tricky part because there isn't one.
Well, at least not one that's particularly spelled out or too specific. I mean, it's not like Rush's 2112 where you can trace every element to specific plot points and say, oh, this is where we meet the priests, this is where he finds the guitar, this is where they break the guitar, this is where all the corny shit happens.
I stand the troubles fire staring.
Guys, I love 2112 with all my fucking heart. I really do, but even I can admit it's got some cheesy moments. It does. Let's just be real about it.
We have three main characters, Jesus of Suburbia, Saint Jimmy, and what's-her-name. And even then it's not terribly well defined as to who these people are. I mean, Saint Jimmy and what's-her-name appear to be on differing sides of some kind of conflict, but they either are or were lovers at one point. Saint Jimmy may either be a role model for Jesus of Suburbia, or he may be the antagonist against Jesus of Suburbia, like he's working against him, or he may be an alter ego of Jesus of Suburbia. They might be the same person. All the music videos seem to suggest they're the same person.
The story of American Idiot is not important. No, shut up. It isn't. You know how I know it isn't? Because the band themselves literally said it's not important.
In coming together to make this album, the band was able to construct some characters, a setting, and a loose time period for them to exist and, do shenanigans in. But they couldn't really think of where the hell to take the story. So rather than try to tell a story they didn't like or couldn't get behind, they decided to purposefully leave a lot of details vague or undeveloped, in an attempt to make the listener determine what it all means to them on their own.
Which again is one of those moves that can so backfire on you, but man, when you take the gamble and win it, holy fucking shit, it's a real risk versus reward thing that you do in creative media. I mean, when Tarantino does it, we get the briefcase from Pulp Fiction. But when done poorly...
What draws you to create those kind of images? I mean, baby heads in the desert? I'll leave it up to the audience, the meaning of the little heads in the ground. The surreal quality of those. What do you mean, John?
But man, oh man, is that just fine and dandy. Because this album is like the definitive exemplification of being an exception to the rule. It just plays by its own guidelines and follows very little of the trends and sort of status quo things that a pop punk album of its era should be doing. It's this weird little puzzle with all of these oddly shaped pieces that really, really seem like they shouldn't go together, but when you put them all together, fuck, dude, they just fit. It just works. For all the reasons it shouldn't work, fuck you, it just works.
Again, mostly because of the themes it explores. It doesn't have to be specific about what it's talking about. Hell, if it did, I honestly think that would be to its detriment. I feel like that would bring the album down. It works because it connects on that purest, most basic, fundamentally human level. We've all felt disenfranchised at some point or another. We've all felt like the world is just jerking us around. And no matter what you may believe in philosophically or spiritually, those feelings of alienation, isolation, and frustration with the world are universally shared across the entire human experience.
I mean, especially if you're a millennial. Holy shit, just look at all the shit we're killing. Oh no, we're not going golfing or buying diamonds or drinking fucking Modelo or eating at Applebee's. Oh, the humanity.
But American Idiot is about the frustrations of the modern era. It's about the apathy of all those institutions, family, industry, government, what have you, that tell us over and over again that they care about us and that they're working in our best interests, but continually fail over and over and over again. And it's about the absolute crazy, spiraling directionlessness that so many of us suffer from these days. Holiday is another politically charged fuck you about George W. Bush and his warmongering ways.
Again, this is what Billy Joe has just flat out said himself. You got a problem with that? Take it up with him. Don't pollute my comment section.
And it's just as raucous, punishing, and in your face as the title track was. Boulevard of Broken Dreams and Are We the Waiting serve as a kind of punishing, hangover-style counterpoint to all the intoxicating rage and fervor of the previous songs. It illustrates how even being fueled by that rage still can't fill the holes of loneliness and abandonment we're constantly having to deal with. St. Jimmy and Give Me Novocaine show us a grimmer, grittier side that, I don't know, some of us have to resort to just to survive, function, and conquer under those circumstances. And She's a Rebel, Extraordinary Girl, and Letterbomb plot out how difficult growing up in this age has made love and intimacy between people. I mean, just both romantically and in general, you know?
Also, these songs just serve as a great big salute to Kathleen Hanna and the work of Bikini Kill and, yeah, man, I'm all about that. Fuck, Bikini Kill is love. Bikini Kill is life. Fucking go listen to some Bikini Kill. Fucking do it right now. Well, watch the video, I would appreciate that. But go listen to Bikini Kill.
That's at least what the songs are covering thematically. The lyrics do touch on the story of Jesus of Suburbia as he wanders around homeless, experiments with drugs, love, and revolution, etc., etc. And again, even though it does go into some detail, it's all just vague enough to map out a loose story for you. But even though you don't have most of the specific details, you still feel what this story is about. Even if you can't describe a specific series of events or actions, you still know what's going on with the characters emotionally. And it does such a good job at making us invested in these characters and where they're going to end up, what they're going to end up doing. We want to know more.
Really, the only song that doesn't connect to the narrative, at least in any direct way, is also one of its biggest hits, Wake Me Up When September Ends.
Oof, man, this song. This was one of the big ones. Between this and Boulevard of Broken Dreams, which won the Grammy for Record of the Year back in 2006, fun fact, these were the songs that always got the most play. And you know what? They deserved it. Yeah, they're both outstanding, deeply melancholy slow jams, sad little ballads that are just aching with emotion, but also kind of soothing in their own sad, weird little way.
You know, it's weird for an album that has all these fantastic ragers and aggro songs and just pit jumpers. It was the songs with the slowest, smoothest, saddest sort of approach that ended up resonating with the most people. These were the songs that ultimately became the album's biggest hits. And that had a
drastic effect on the next album.
But this song in particular, man, does it work the emotional chord harder than any other track on this thing. Probably because this one was written straight from experience. It's about the death of Billy Joe's dad, who passed away from cancer when he was just 10. So the story goes, during the funeral, Billy Joe cried like crazy, ran home in the middle of things, and when his mother tried to get him to come out of his room, he would just shout back, "Wake me up when September ends." Damn. I mean, the lyrics really lay all of his emotions out there, bare and in full force.
Like my father's come to pass, 20 years has gone so fast. Wake me.
You know, I'm lucky enough to have not lost either of my parents. Well, except maybe my saying parents, they probably died in the explosion, but who cares, they probably suck. But, guys, regardless, you really feel just how horrible this situation is for him. This is just layered and layered with sadness. This is the real shit, guys. Holy hell.
I mean, even though this song is one of the rare ones that doesn't have anything to really do with any of the other tracks, given the emotional weight and the theme of loss, confusion, and sadness in this track, it still fits perfectly into the album as a whole. And again, given the circumstances, it really shouldn't work, but this album, again, is a case study in being an exception to the rules. This is an album that absolutely nails its emotional dynamic. It's got a long, sad story to tell, and it might not make a ton of sense all the time, but you'll be damned if you aren't feeling it every step of the way. And that ultimately is what makes it so goddamn great. It's what makes it resonate with nearly everyone who listens to it. Gets you right in the motherfucking feels, dude.
And if I can get a little personal here, this album means a lot to me too. It's important into how it ended up shaping me and how it formulated my identity, especially in most tumultuous years when I was trying to figure out
Jesus fucking Christ, what the hell is that thing?
Diamanda, it's me, I'm a Lil D.Va.
Christ, it looks like someone metamorphized a mogwai into someone's waifu. Look, what the fuck do you want?
Diamanda, you're really good at killing people, right?
Well, I don't know if I'd say I'm good at it. Killing isn't something that I'd equate to a rote skill or a science. It's far more like an art. A bloody, writhing, screaming art.
Well, could you please help me? I need to know how to kill a Saiyan.
A Saiyan? You mean you're trying to kill Crash?
Yeah, dirty. That's right, half the reason I'm here.
Look, as much as I support the idea of laying that fat, space monkey-looking piece of shit into a dirt mattress, I don't see why you want to.
21st century breakdown can...
Because that!
Okay, yeah. What the hell?
That's the thing. We don't know for sure. See, I'm from the future. I was sent back in time to prevent a terrible tragedy from befalling this city. In 2017, in Indianapolis, Indiana, a terrible thing happened. The earth shook, the world went gray, and then in one fell swoop, the entire city exploded. A fiery little cataclysm of horror and fire. This phenomenon spread all throughout the country and eventually the world, and devastated mankind. I was pulled away from my job, totally kicking ass and owning stupid squidwards, by the South Korean military to find out what caused this threat and neutralize it before the shit really got fucked up.
Wait, Crash is responsible for instigating a Terminator-style apocalypse? That does not make any sense. That idiot can't even release a video on time.
I'm not for certain that's what it is, but Crash is the most devastating and powerful force in this stupid, shitty little state. And whenever he reviews bad albums, bad things tend to happen. Remember when Crash defeated and blew up the evil Weezer album Gratitude? You see how his building is on fire? Yeah, what you're not seeing now is that explosion engulfed an entire city black!
Oh shit, really? I'm gonna have him around next time I review Jimmy Screamer Claws.
Look, it has to be him. That devastation was over one album he didn't write. And now he's about to tackle 4 in a row that piss him off. Even if he's not the reason for Doomsday, do you realize the horrible potential that could wreak?
Sure, I guess, but why send a South Korean operative? Surely this is the Americans' jurisdiction.
Dude, have you seen America right now?
Touché.
Trust me, it's all downhill from here, especially when President Kid Rock becomes a thing. I've tried everything I could do to neutralize this stupid fat monkey boy. I tried shooties. I tried explodies. I even did this whole big elaborate setup to try and get him drowned. You gotta help me, Diamanda, please.
Well, I know someone that might be able to help you out, an old acquaintance of mine. But you'd have to talk him into it. And I guarantee you won't be able to.
You and a Lil D.Va worry about that. Just give me a name.
Oh man, 21st century breakdown, 21st century breakdown, 21st century breakdown. Oh, I've hinted both here on the channel and on social media that I don't really care for this album too much, and yeah, it's gotten me some very livid pushback, but I don't care. I dislike this album quite a lot. But we're getting ahead of ourselves here. I mean, there's 5 years of space between this and American Idiot. Stuff had to happen in the meantime, right? Well, yeah, lots of stuff, actually. Not long after American Idiot came out, the band released their first ever official live album, Bullet in a Bible. Holy shit, that is a badass name for an album. Fuck, I'd call a band Bullet in a Bible if these guys hadn't already nicked the idea. Shit.
Wow, lucky I always keep a Bible close to my heart, huh?
But yeah, for most of the in-between years, these guys were basically touring their asses off again, rehearsing and writing new material, and even spinning off into even more side projects. And this time they even went as far as to acknowledge the band's existence. Crazy, I know. One of the more celebrated side acts was 2008's Foxborough Hot Tubs, another side group that features every original member of Green Day, plus some other guys providing support. And it's another throwback to an older retro sound. Again, guys, just because you pretended the network didn't exist doesn't mean we do too. Come on. Though Foxborough was more of a swingin' 60s kind of rock vibe, this kind of came near the tail end of the garage rock revival period, you know, The Strokes, Jet, White Stripes, etc. That whole scene was actually starting to wind down. I mean, after the White Stripes broke up, it was basically curtains, but the Hot Tubs came around with their swingin' lo-fi boogie-woogie. Even as this period in rock history was starting to come to a close, this stuff still stood out as being pretty good. Given the fact that most people were ready to move on from this kind of style, it held its own pretty damn well. I mean, having everyone in Green Day certainly helped with that, but I think it was legit. I think it deserved the praise it got. It holds up okay even today, I think, if this is your kind of thing at least. It's worth digging up, if only for the curiosity factor. It's not as bizarre and fascinating as the network was, but hey, they had some good hooks, some catchy toe tappers. What more do you want? In addition to this, the band, that's Green Day proper, not Foxborough Hot Tubs, showed us they were still kicking by releasing a cover of John Lennon's Working Class Hero for a John Lennon covers album, and holy shit, it's really, really good. Like, it's really good. Like, this is definitely one of the best versions of this song to have ever been made. And guys, there are a lot of versions of this song, so yeah, I don't say that lightly. I mean, it kicks the shit out of Corey Feldman's take, if nothing else.
A working class hero is something to be.
And during this time, another thing happened. Hurricane Katrina. But the band got together with
U2 of all groups, yeah, that still shocks me to this day, but Green Day and U2 got together and recorded a charity single, a cover of the Skids' The Saints Are Coming. It's an okay little number. It actually was nominated for Best Rock Performance Grammy. I mean, hey, that's pretty cool. I wish the original track had gotten this much love. The Skids were a great band. Hey, take what you can get, I guess. But in addition to all of that, Green Day was also in the process of adapting American Idiot from a punk rock opera to a real-life opera. Well, technically a Broadway show, but come on, it's close enough. Fuck it.
Just 4 months after this album dropped, American Idiot made its debut as a stage show, with Billy Joe and the other members writing music and helping to adapt the story while they were working on 21st Century Breakdown, apparently. In fact, this show actually contains a few tracks from 21st Century Breakdown, which muddies the timeline of this story even further. Oh my god. The show was crazy successful, and within a few years, it was on Broadway, raking in killer reviews. It was nominated for 3 Tonys, including Best Musical, and the show's cast recording won the 2011 Grammy for Best Musical Show Album. And hell, even though it's been off Broadway for a while, productions of the show still continue to this day, and a film adaptation is apparently on the horizon. Fuck, I'll probably have to review that too when it drops.
Oh dear. Let's hope that's not like other stage-to-screen adaptations.
I don't have time to really go in depth about this here. Maybe we can talk about this more in the next episode.
God knows we need to talk about something!
But yeah, I've been putting it off for too long now. 21st Century Breakdown. Welp. The band saw how successful one punk rock opera was, so why not do it over again?
I mean, that may sound cynical as all hell, but it worked for The Who. And Billy Joe did cite The Who as a strong influence for both of these albums, so doesn't seem like the worst idea in the world, on paper at least. Execution is a whole other thing.
So the band, after wrapping up some projects and putting some stuff to the side, they did all of that and headed back to the studio, this time without Rob Cavallo.
And, oh, guys, I'm willing to concede, maybe I just suck at research, but I could not for the life of me find a single reason why they chose to do this. Like, after proving himself time and time and time again, proving himself in one of the best ways possible with American Idiot, for this one they just decided, fuck it. I mean, it's not like they parted with bad blood or anything, they were on good terms, and I understand, just the need to have to mix things up every once in a while, but
I mean, even with Cavallo's absence, this still should have worked okay on paper, because you know who they got to replace him? Butch motherfucking Vig.
Butch Vig. The guy's made a few small, kind of underground, underappreciated classics you may have heard of, such as and lest we motherfucking forget. Yeah, it's not like the album was in shaky hands or anything. So, the band is back in the studio, they're with one of the all-time legendary greats, they're rip-roaring and ready to go. So why am I so down on this album? Well, guys, one thing I'll say, the album just disappoints right out of the opening gate. Listen to how American Idiot opens. And listen to how 21st Century Breakdown opens. Guys, it just doesn't compare.
And is it entirely fair to compare this to American Idiot? I don't know, probably not, but look, American Idiot just grabbed you by the lapels and demanded you to pay attention to what it had to say. This thing? Oh, it's going for a much different mood, isn't it? It's mid-tempo, the beat is steady, if not particularly forceful. It's, not a bad little song, and I do dig it lyrically. It's, again, about being part of a lost generation. Being young, aimless, adrift, and...
like American Idiot was. Only American Idiot, guys, it was brash and loud and abrasive. It kicked the motherfucking door down and said, "Fuck you, man!" Like this song with its so much more tepid approach and its complete neutering of aggro sensibilities, American Idiot was a "fuck you, man," while this song is more of a just fuck you, man.
This song is also another attempt at a multi-part suite, but it's kinda less committed to the idea. It's a 3-parter, more like a 2.5-parter, and the parts aren't named or separated in anything apart from a slight shift in musical structure here and there. And even more so, it barely scrapes above the 5-minute mark.
I never thought I'd be complaining about a punk rock song being too short on this show. God, especially one that eclipses 5 minutes, but... yeah, guys, this thing just doesn't do much for me.
It's got some catchy as hell little sections to it, and I totally get the love that it gets. It's just not as good as a lot of other Green Day stuff I've heard. Oh boy, we'll be saying that again throughout this particular review, especially for an opening track. I mean, guys, it just doesn't compare. Though it does a good job of letting you know that this album is, gonna be something else. This is immediately followed by Know Your Enemy.
This song can go get fucked!
Again, it's mid-tempo, but that drum part is nice and punchy. Hey, good job, Trey. And the opening hook is catchy enough until you realize this is the whole goddamn song! Seriously, they use the same fucking riff for both the verses and the choruses, and even the bridge is pretty goddamn similar to the rest of the song. And guys, I have a small little question for you. Do you know your enemy? Do you know the enemy? Do you know your enemy? Do you know your enemy? Do you know the enemy? Do you know the enemy? Do you know your enemy? Do you know the enemy? Do you know the enemy? Do you know your enemy? Do you know my enemy? Do you know their enemy? Do you know our enemy? Do you know that enemy? Do you know his enemy? Do you know their enemy? Jesus Christ in a washing machine. The music is repetitive. The lyrics are repetitive. I'll bet you $5 you could just loop the first verse of this song for 3 minutes, and most people probably wouldn't even be able to catch it.
I mean... did you catch it?
This is like one portion of a good song that isn't fleshed out at all. It's so repetitive, it bores me to tears. Oh, and this was a single too, so I heard it all over the fucking place. Fuck! I mean, punk rock is supposed to have a semblance of simplicity to its construction, but not this fucking simple, Jesus! Viva La Gloria is a decent song. The piano at the beginning takes too goddamn long to get going, but once it gets going, it has some nice giddy up to it. This is actually where the story of the album begins to start proper.
Oh yeah, I kind of forgot about that. This rock opera is supposed to have a story, isn't it?
Yeah, only 4 tracks in and we're just now starting the story. Okay, whatever. Well, here is where we meet our second character of the tale, Gloria, the love interest to our protagonist, Christian. Subtle. But according to this song, Gloria is passionate, fiery, and is aching for revolution. She's a gal who sticks to her principles and will do anything and everything to defend her beliefs and—
Wait a minute, that's just what's-her-name! No, literally, that is the exact same description we had for what's-her-name on the last album. Except she has a name now. And holy God, no wonder they kept her anonymous on the last album. Turns out her name is just heavy-handed symbolism. And what about Christian? What's his deal? Destructive, inflammatory Christian is the side of Billy Joe he tries to keep under wraps. My God, it's just St. Jimmy! The destructive, ulterior side of yourself, it's St. Jimmy! And depending on your interpretation of American Idiot, St. Jimmy may be Jesus of Suburbia. So, guys, this is just American Idiot all over again.
Yeah, people, I'm sorry, but for all of you about to say it's not fair for me to compare this to American Idiot, well, A, fuck you, I can compare it to whatever the bloody hell I want to, and B, fuck off, this is American Idiot. It's the story of a frustrated kid who comes from a harsh upbringing, who's full of socio-political frustration and abandonment issues out the wazoo. He meets up with an equally frustrated but more sincere and passion-driven girl, they fall in love, the relationship turns to shit because of their self-destructive tendencies.
It's American Idiot, but not as good.
In fact, it doesn't hit nearly as hard as American Idiot does. The music overall is just so much more mid-tempo and watered-down feeling. It lacks punch, it lacks bravado, it lacks that sense of majesty and epicness that opera thrives on. And an opera that lacks energy is just cats.
What the fuck is wrong with Andrew Lloyd Webber? Anyway, guys, if you thought the story to American Idiot was sparse, holy shit, it's nothing compared to this. Like, at least with American Idiot, we had the basics of a story, there was a skeleton of a plot there, you at least knew what the characters were feeling and going through, you could at least draw a loose series of events to kind of guide you through the plot. Here, there's not even that. I mean, hell, the story doesn't even get really going until 4 tracks in. Most of the songs are just written from Billy Joe's personal perspective anyway, and don't really directly involve a lot of the characters, and it's all completely dropped by the last third of the album anyway, so I don't know, why even bother with the whole opera concept? If you guys aren't invested in these characters, how the fuck are we supposed to get invested?
And the production here, you know, it's not the worst I've ever heard, but Butch, he just feels out of his elements, kinda. I mean, everything is clean and polished and leveled properly. You know, everything is in tune and everything sounds very squeaky clean. Maybe a little too squeaky clean? I mean, really, this album has like no grit or brashness to it. It feels toothless. Like, that was one of the good things I love about Cavallo's production. Pretty much throughout most of their career, he always knew when to turn the band up and when to scale them back. He had like just the perfect rhythm and flow for their sound. Cavallo understood Green Day. Butch Vig is a brilliant producer, but I don't think he gets Green Day, at least not as well as Cavallo certainly did. Cavallo was never afraid to blow out your eardrums a little bit and make things coarse here and there to help grab your attention, you know? Vig, he was just going for his more high-polished approach. Like I say, that works in some places, but here, I don't think it was the right approach. I also get the impression that he didn't quite know how to work with the band and help them out in developing their ideas. I mean, I just get the feeling Cavallo would have taken one listen to Know Your Enemy and straight up told Billy, write a fucking chorus, dude, fuck you. He did an okay job, don't get me wrong. It's certainly not a flub or a failing for Vig, but I just feel like he was the wrong guy for this. And that's one of the things that makes this album so ultimately frustrating to me. It's not bad. That's the weird thing about 21st Century Breakdown. It isn't terrible. I personally like the title track, Viva La Gloria, the version with exclamation points, that is. Last Night on Earth is a very pretty little piano ballad, and East Jesus Nowhere is a bouncy little middle finger to Organized Religion I can always listen to if it comes on.
God, I hate to be that damn predictable and say, oh, the song that pokes at Organized Religion is the good one, but I don't know, guys, what can I say? I actually do really like this tune. This is one of the few songs that actually gets a rise out of me while I'm listening to this thing.
And Murder City's even got lots of punch and a nice hook for the chorus. You know, for all the shit I'm talking about this album overall, it does have some killers on it. It does.
But that's the album's biggest problem. It doesn't stick out in any interesting or unique way. It doesn't have the fire and intensity of their early albums. It doesn't really have the bold experimentation of later stuff like Nimrod or Warning. It doesn't even come close to the bombastness and pomp of American Idiot. It's just there. It's there. It exists. It's a thing that is.
It's kinda there, it's kinda okay, but that's all it is to me. I don't hate the album. Hell, I find myself spinning it from time to time, just to try and give it another chance, but I can never get excited for this thing when I listen to it. Never. Not like any other Green Day album usually does. In fact, when I first bought this back in the day, I remember I only got halfway through it before I just got bored and switched over to Foxborough Hot Tubs. Seriously, I bought this thing day of release, and it probably took me a month to get through the whole thing cover to cover.
And guys, you've seen some of the stuff I've had to sit through over the years. I like to think I have a pretty strong tolerance for music.
This album, it just does little to nothing for me overall, like nothing. Hell, the hardest part of this entire series,
up to this point at least,
has been trying to write the script for this album specifically because what else can I do but compare it to all the other albums we've heard from them up to this point? Yeah, honestly, I would say up to this point in their career, this was pretty much the worst thing Green Day had ever released. Oh, but guys, even in saying that, it's not an atrocious album, it's solid for what it is. I'd still say it's like a 6, maybe a 7 out of a 10 for me.
Hey, Rolling Stone, this is the album that should have got 3 out of 5.
And the biggest sort of frustration I have with this album, at least from a critical perspective, this is probably just purely because of my own personal relationship to this band. I'm the kind of guy who, while I wasn't there from the very beginning, does have a very strong connection to the band's previous work. I've just heard these guys do so many more interesting things throughout the span of their career that this just doesn't compare, guys, especially given that American Idiot was literally the previous album. I mean, every time I listen to this, all I can think to myself is, okay, it's fine, but why am I not listening to American Idiot? I mean, with all its energy, passion, crazy good instrumentation, I get why it makes such a huge impact. I get exactly why they went on to make that album into a musical. That album was begging to be made into a musical. Ain't nobody gonna be gunning to make the 21st Century Breakdown Broadway show anytime soon. Maybe Julie Taymor if she really feels like slumming it.
I'm sorry, but I just take so little enjoyment out of listening to this thing, especially when compared to American Idiots. I mean, if I have the choice between a warm glass of milk and a 7-layer milkshake, I mean, fucking look at me, 9 times out of 10, yeah, I'm gonna go for the milkshake. There's nothing wrong with a warm glass of milk. Hell, every once in a while I might have a warm glass of milk. It just might make me super tired, though.
And you know, for all you people for whom this was your jumping on point to Green Day, I totally get it. I see why you love this album. To those of you that love the idea of American Idiot, but with a bit less punk rock bluntness and more of a mature, slightly more varied soundscape, I can see why you would love this album. I can totally understand why people would have a deep and meaningful connection to this thing. But in the words of Creedence Clearwater Revival,
it ain't me.
But people, like I always say, the only opinion that really matters is your own. If this album is a 10 out of 10 masterpiece of grand design to you, then that's okay. I mean, that's perfectly fine. I don't necessarily take, like, joy out of being one of this album's detractors, but I don't know, it's not terrible. I just don't understand when compared to the rest of Green Day's catalog, why this album sticks out in any particular way. Like, man, so much good Green Day we've gotten up to this, and this album is just boring.
Are the lyrics good? Yeah, I like its message about frustrated youths trying to piece together their lives while authority constantly tells them to fuck off and die. I also like that in every other Green Day album I've ever heard, especially in the last one. Ooh, boy, that one was where it was at.
And people, I'm just gonna say it, and you're all gonna hate it, but I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm gonna say it anyway. But 21 Guns is a fucking horrible song!
And you know, if this is your jam, you know me, I'm not gonna judge you for it. But I really don't get why people dig this song as much as they do. This one? Really? This one? I've had people straight-faced tell me this is their favorite Green Day song. I mean, really? This? When compared to... all the other great stuff they've done, this is the top dog?
Like, don't take this personally or anything, but I do not get you, man. Are you an alien from another planet? Because I literally am an alien from another planet, and even I'm like, what the fuck? What are you?
I mean, again, this isn't a bad song. Not technically, I guess. The verses are very pretty, that acoustic guitar is nice and subdued, and you know, there's some nice subtle synth and string work in the background that's, you know, not too intrusive. It helps accentuate the mood a bit. But man, everything else about this song, it's just so blech. Billy's singing like he's tired. He sounds sleepy, like he was raised from a really bad hangover and just propped up in front of the mic. Which I guess is a distinct possibility, but like he sounds defeated and dejected here, which, yes, given that the song is about dejection and defeat, yes, it's fitting, okay, I get it. But look, even if it's appropriate, it doesn't make for a good listen to me. And every time that falsetto in the chorus comes up, 21 guns. I'm sorry, that is so weak sauce. His vocal performance makes it seem like he's going to nod off in any second. And the chorus overall lacks so much punch. Trey's drums are the most basic syncopation with the melody. The guitar is about as basic as you can get away with on this track. And Mike?
Oh boy, and this is a topic I have not been looking forward to discussing, but man, this album really marks a kind of turning point in Mike Dirnt's playing. See, that's one of the biggest problems I have with this album. It's just Dirnt's style of playing lacks so much color and vibrancy, at least when compared to everything else we're used to hearing from him. I mean, this is the guy that gave us so many good lines. I am going to play you a bunch of classic Green Day lines, plastered up against stuff from 21st Century Breakdown, and you tell me if you notice a difference. leave the second fret! I never leave the second fret! Fuck!
Yeah, while Mike's bass work wasn't terribly crazy on American Idiot either, just being fair, it felt more appropriate to be scaled back on that album. I mean, the rest of the instrumentation, the writing, the energy, the theming, everything else about that album more than made up for Mike's less than stellar performance on that. Here, though, nothing else really helps prop him back up, and his sort of, lackluster low ending here, it just kind of starts to stick out more. I mean, this is an album that is sorely lacking punch, and as a bassist, especially one as skilled as Mike Darrant, he really could have built up and filled in the holes this album has in its melodies, but he's just not doing much here.
And not to spoil, but yeah, down the line this becomes a recurring problem.
Everything about this song just feels listless, and yeah, go ahead, tell me in the comments how that's the whole point. It still doesn't make the damn thing any fun to listen to. In the words of Yahtzee Croshaw,
if you want to smear shit on your face to make an ironic statement, then more power to you, but you still smell like arse.
The chorus doesn't land, the verses don't engage, and the bridge and solo? Wait, really? No way.
Oh my god, now that I've heard that, I can never unhear it. Holy shit!
This is not one of their better songs. This should not have been a hit. I don't think this should have even been a single.
But what the hell do I know? Because this song was a hit. A huge hit. This song was fucking everywhere.
Yep. This thing was on the radio every other fucking minute. I think I heard this song more than anything off of American Idiot. Life isn't fair. It was on the radio every other minute. It was playing over the intercom of every store you walked into. Hell, my local Starbucks would even play this song. Starbucks! Fucking Starbucks. How punk rock, am I right? Oy vey.
Hell, I even remember catching a few Pacers games back in the day, and they would play this song in between quarters. This one! Yeah, this dour, depressing song about surrender and defeat. Yeah, that'll get the crowd all riled up. Oh, fuck, no wonder we had such a miserable season that year. And the thing is, I know exactly why this song took off like it did. I'll tell you exactly why. It's because the last two big songs from their previous album were Boulevard of Broken Dreams and Wake Me Up When September Ends. They were copying the formula. Wow, isn't that this album in a nutshell?
Yeah, out of all the stuff that scored big from the last album, it was the two slower, more morose tunes that gained the band the most listens and the most attention, so while I don't have anything official to back this up, I can almost guarantee that was the thought process behind this tune. If not from the band themselves, then at least from their marketing department. This is the album's biggest slow point. This was supposed to be the thing's biggest ballad.
They wanted to release a good ballad from this album. Why the fuck didn't they release Last Night on Earth? Whatever, I give up.
But nope, Boulevard and Wake Me Up were the big hitters, so let's just slap the depressing slow song out there and fuck it, it'll be a hit. And fuck it, it was. Seriously, this thing got so many accolades. Fucking why, though? The other two were sad songs, sure, but they had some real weight behind them. Wake Me Up was about dealing with grief and the loss of a loved one. Boulevard was about existential emptiness and the dread of being alone in a new place. This song, it's just basically,
wow, we done fucked up. Holy shit, we suck. Hashtag you blew it. But again, what the fuck do I know? Not only was this song a big hit, this album was a big hit too.
Though not as big of a hit as American Idiot was, it didn't get nearly as many Grammy nominations as its big brother did. though it did end up winning Rock Album of the Year again. But guys, like, real talk, the competition wasn't exactly ferocious in 2010. I mean, look at this shit. A live Eric Clapton album, a late-era Dave Matthews piece, one of the more boring things U2 has ever done, and oh, really, Grammys? Come on, you assholes weren't even trying, were you? Hey, wait, you know that Dave Matthews Band album? That seems familiar for some reason. Why is that ringing off alarm bells in my head? Oh, would you look at who produced that one? Oh, gee, what a coinky-dink.
And again, it brings us full circle back into this album's core central issue. Why the fuck would I want to listen to this when Green Day has done so much better?
Really? Yeah, 21 Guns isn't the worst song I've ever heard, but why would I listen to it when these two already exist? This isn't a bad attempt at a punk rock opera, but why listen to that when this already exists? Again, a lot of it just boils down to personal taste. I mean, most of you could probably just rebut my arguments by swapping out the names of the albums and just reciting my script back to me. And you would be no less wrong or right. I mean, fuck. Oh, from a critical perspective, this album just fucks me over silly. In a weird way, it's vaguely similar to Make Believe. I ranted and raged and went into a tirade over how much I hated that thing. But is Make Believe genuinely that bad? Nah, probably not, especially since Weezer would go on to prove that they had not yet begun to suck. But like Make Believe, this album, while not bad, is still disappointed. And, you know, I'm only disappointed here because I expect so much better out of this group. Years upon years upon years of stellar music has taught me to expect more from Green Day.
And if I seem pissy and complaining about this album, I'm not really. It's just that when a band like Green Day, a band as good as Green Day, when they swing and miss, it just stings all that much more, you know? You don't expect it from a band as good as Green Day, even though, yes, every band is going to make missteps throughout their career, and the longer they stick around, the more likely it is they are going to make missteps. But, I don't know, again, even my own misgivings with this album are more just my misgivings. This album does have a lot of potential, and it does really have its shinier moments. I can understand completely why someone who isn't me might get more out of this thing. And again, that's why I don't necessarily judge you or, you know, harsh your buzz if this is a 10 out of 10 album for you. Because, hey, it has its qualities, and it is a different take on the Green Day formula. It is a different spin on things, and hey, that's honorable in and of itself. It's good for them to change things up, and if you like what they did here, then hell yeah, more power to you. But man, that just ain't me, guys. This album is not my style. But hey, that's just me, you know, and we don't have to agree on everything. Because, hey, you know, Green Day is still a great band, and they're still capable of putting out really good stuff. And, you know, if this is the worst thing we ever get from Green Day, I would consider us to be very lucky. I mean, it does not get worse than this, right? I mean, it totally doesn't get worse than this, right? It doesn't fucking get worse than this, right? Oh, God damn it, that was a bad one. What the hell keeps causing that? Well, anyway, guys, I'm Crash Thompson, and remember, the only opinion that really matters is your own. I'll catch you in the next episode. D.Va, are you doing mech repairs in the house again? I told you not to do that.
Hey, D.Va. Are you trying to kill me?
Yes. It's filthy fancy, motherfucker! It's filthy fancy, bitch! Let's get your pussy tonight. Shut the fuck up! You're a stupid bird. You're a stupid bird. Shut